guys, guess what time it is?
It's time for Small Potatoes.
Where we give you a naughty tease of our latest Patreon episode.
Be sure to subscribe. Links are in the description.
The detriment is so broad too, because it's going to affect so many elements of society and not just that individual young man's life, right? And yet it will. It's going to affect his schooling, his friendships while he's in school. His grades probably might take a hit, either up or down, depending on who he's associating with and what's going on. We see in adolescence, criminal record comes in. That affects what jobs you can have. That affects so much potential in young boys, which is often not enough nurtured, like you said. And then if you're also stifling artistic creativity, intellectual curiosity, that means you're eliminating nerds and bookworms and artists, painters, craftsmen. Like, society's going to take a dent for that. Imagine what we wouldn't have if we didn't have those people throughout the years of human history, right? If no one was ever curious enough to invent insulin or to go to the moon or, all the different things that humans are able to learn, which sets us apart from every other species on the planet. It's such a waste almost. Like, I'm big on soul growth and that we're here. To me, the meaning of life is to learn a certain amount of lessons before we move on to whatever's next. How are you questing for lessons if you are being stifled so young? And, women should be able to relate so much to that plight, because even young women that know anything about the quest of feminism, it was because of isolation, segregation, racism, like all the isms, again, are all about that isolating, the loneliness, the messaging, the limitations you're putting on people instead of allowing them to flourish and kind of discover whatever it is they're meant to be and what their soul's supposed to learn. And so if he was meant to be the next composer and his dad is like, either play football or shut the fuck up in your room, like, what are you making him into?
It's that toxic masculinity. I'm sorry, because you're right. Whether it's music or art, it's expression that they can express themselves with their happiness, their anger, like all of the emotions can be brought out within those different areas. And I think that's why girls are very emotionally evolved, generally more than boys, because they love music and crafts and playing dolls and make believe, and they're allowed, and they can play soccer and they can do martial arts. Like they have so much more opportunity. Whereas I think when you're living in a very masculine dominated household that is very focused on boxing, football, hockey, and if you don't fit in that category, then you simply aren't going to feel like you fit. And it's those boys that I feel for.
Yeah, because if they're going to school and not fitting in on the playground and then going home and not fitting in at home, gosh.
You know what's another interesting thought is I think in general, young boys often don't like getting the male teacher, and there's less men teacher, I think, out there, but at least I know my son does not want the man teacher because they think that they are going to be stricter and there's going to be more rules and they're going to be tougher on them. Whereas now, what I read is that boys want the male teacher because, and here's a sign to you parents, if your son's kind of falling down into this manosphere, is because they feel women have nothing they can teach them. So it's becoming that disrespect level or this hatred towards women, and that is one of the indicators.
I didn't even fathom it would be at that level, but of course.
Well, what can she teach me? She's a woman.
She's a fucking woman.
It's interesting.
You've got my brain reeling on this one because I'm trying to think back to all my teachers. And I have two favorite teachers. I think most kids have a favorite teacher or two. One was a girl, one was a boy. I should say a man and a woman. We're boys and girls. But I think some of my strictest teachers were older women. Now, I went to a Catholic French immersion school. It was very strict. And then I went to a high school run by nuns that was all girls. So yeah, hella strict. Hella Catholic. Well, how'd I do, folks? So comes out the other side. Watch how you isolate people because we fucking rebel, right?
Yeah.
But the strictest ones were the older nuns, the older teacher, the older, and women were the guys were pretty cool most of the time. And I never had a male PE teacher, like phys ed and stuff like that. Actually, I
Okay.
only had girl ones. So it's not like he was just like the sports guy. But in general, the male teachers were cooler, or which I guess meant
No,
less strict
I
with the
like
kid.
male teachers, but I think for young boys that, especially problematic boys, they don't want the male teacher that they feel like that will be too much of an authority.
Yeah.
Generally, whereas now that shift, depending on, you know, what your child is consuming, it might be the opposite. Just one way to look at it.
This is blowing my brain. You know, currently in my personal life, I have very strong issues at the moment with feminism and sexism popping up at unwelcomed points. But to think of that down to schooling, I mean, of course, most of that shit happens in the school classroom, the playground anyway. So why wouldn't that extend to the teachers?
Yeah. I mean, if the lack of
Principals, bus
disrespect or
drivers.
the lack of respect and the lack of really care for females has been set in place and that ball is rolling, that's going to breed outside of just their relationships and friendships, right? And into adults.
Right. Well, and I think teachers, there's so much pressure on teachers to do so many things as their jobs, but teachers are always kind of a go-to because they have eyes and ears around, right? So when you're talking about behavioral issues or something like this, I think it would be an inkling to say, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, can you let me know if you notice this and my son is, you know, sharing these memes or they're yucking this up at recess or something. Not that it's the fucking teacher's job to parent your child, but yeah, they might witness something because they're around more often. But if that's a woman, it's just going to get more. What if the principal's a woman too? Like, it's just going to get, and then a single mom comes in. Like, it's just going to get worse and worse. And we're talking grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, like all the way up high school. Listen, whatever they feed these kids nowadays, I would not want to be a female teacher with a bunch of students with a mindset of red pill ideology coming at me when I'm trying to discipline them or penalize them for breaking a rule or something. Reminds me very much of episode 2 or 3 of Adolescence when she's having the one-on-one with him and he scares the bejeebers out of her.
Yeah.
And he was little. He wasn't tall yet. And now, God, grade 8 scare me. Huge. And if they're that angry, oh my fuck. Like, it's taking the whole, like, I hate teenagers once you get older thing to a whole other level. Yeah. Because I've never been afraid of teenagers for my physical safety before. But if they're in a little sphere of just man hate or woman hate all the time, thinking we're the cause of all their issues, oh God. You're rattling my brain right now.
I mean, even if you, at the simplest level, just look at your child's Instagram account. Let's say he posts a selfie and look at the comments under. And if you're seeing emojis that I've talked about, or there's more, please Google it because there really is a lot of different terminology. It's literally bullying. Like it's people tearing each other down or discriminating against his masculinity, etc. That is just one little symbol that otherwise you'd be none the wiser. But that's the start of it, and those are the warning signs because that's just building rage inside of that boy. That he was vulnerable enough to put out a picture of himself, and then for the 52 comments of a pill or 80 or the 100 or whatever it is under it,
right? And the
is just all the fuel he needs.